All right, guys, we're doing another video. Opinion. Opinion on life is a judgment of our own reality. Opinion on life is a judgment of our own reality. Imagine this. I'm a guy that was captured, that was a captive of his own statements for the longest time. For the longest time. From the statements of I am something to the statements of I can't do something. I was a captive of all these statements. And as I moved forward, at one point I realized that all these statements that I made not really were just they outdated, they were weak. They made me weak, which reminds me of a quote from Bleach. Is whoever watches anime, man, should know. My philosophies are based on manga, anime, and the entire and between Japanese culture first, and then I started shifting towards the East, and eventually, I started reading European Western culture and American mainly poetry. I love that stuff. But hey, an opinion on life is a judgment of our own reality. When I thought of that, I was probably thinking about how I can shift my wording when it comes to things that I don't like in life. And that's probably something I've been actively trying to do it when I'm on the bicycle and I'm traveling across the city and people are just being themselves and driving recklessly and not giving a fuck that I could die if they just climb on me. So, so depending on my mood, my response kind of sometimes if it's a sunny day and I'm in a fluffy mood, walking on the bicycle going la 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 la, and a guy almost runs me over and I go poor bastard, he must be going through a lot, or he must have a lot on his mind. Or other days when it's raining and I can't wait to reach my destination and then somebody just doesn't allow me to cross the road or just is being like an asshole because they have four big ass wheels driving while I have tiny ones, so I have to be careful not to slip, not to die. And I find myself kind of losing, whatever fucking asshole, this shit like this. And I realize that it's the mood on the day is dictated by the original kind of statement. Like if I'm gonna go on the bike and I think, oh my god, it's gonna rain on me, that kind of sets the mood for my bike ride. But if I'm looking just at the sky and I'm hey, let's just drive, or I'm excited to do this or something like this, it's no longer the destination that I want to get to. It becomes the ride itself. So my mood shifts. Each one comes with a different opinion on the current setting, environment, and the actual. This is the only variable that's different is the actual change in weather. But it made me think of something a bit more profound. Like anytime you have an opinion on something, even though that's not really a statement, what you're doing is you're kind of casting a certain judgment. And judgment is on nothing but on whether you like it or not. Right? So it's a judgment on your own perspective, on your own view. So this kind of screwed me up when I thought about it because I was like, shit, everything we do literally reflects on us and comes back to us. Because everything we do is literally coming out of us. So everything that is thrown out, the only place it actually sticks is us. So if I look at a rainy day and I go oh fuck, I don't like rainy days. Okay, that's not an opinion, that's a statement. Or if I look at the actual rate of on a rainy day and I go oh, if only it wasn't raining, I'm kind of not having the best opinion towards the rain that day. And that sets a certain tone. And they kind of flow because 5, 6 rainy days, and then eventually I really don't like the rain. I just don't say it because I'm trying to be good or I'm trying not to make statements. And every once in a while, when you realize something that you kind of projected into the world come back to you, the fun part becomes how did it actually under what circumstance did it leave your mind first? How did you form a certain opinion and what justifies it at the moment? Because back at there was a different environment, different situation, different time, different you, different everything. the first time you made an opinion about it. But the mind knows best is to build on top of what already exists. So weirdly, so it's like the snowball effect, right? Like you have a snow, you make a small one and you throw it, and it slowly kind of accumulates. At first, it's fun, but then it can actually, like, I don't know, can hurt people. So imagining like anything you project on the outside world, you're judging your own reality. You're judging the way you actually view things. So every opinion of yours is always biased towards how you see things, but also cannot be conclusive, because if it's conclusive, then it's labeling something, which makes it more of a statement towards, not a statement or a announcement. It makes it an announcement of how you see some things, which eventually, announcement, that's the first time I think of it. Because when we speak, we're announcing how we see the world. That's how we're expressing, right? We're declaring. And so anytime we have an opinion on something, anytime we have an opinion on life in general, things, concepts, I think we can reflect on. We can always get back to, we can always like engage with, we can always kind of like destructure the different situations, because like there's a lot more variables to deal with. But when it comes to life, life is a bit more consistent. So an opinion on that is literally an opinion on how we see it. Because a tree looks like a tree to everyone, it looks like a tree. But everyone sees the colors differently, sees the shape differently, feels differently around it, and all that cute stuff. So ultimately, like our interaction, our objectification of life is us having an opinion towards it. But also, how would we be subjectively approaching life if having an opinion on life is an objective approach? Would a subjective approach just not have anything at all? A subjective approach to life would be just accepting everything the way they are without kind of like having fun, or just without seeing something as better and seeing something as like worse, or seeing something that's something you like and something you don't like. A subjective approach would be an approach where instead of you having an opinion on life, you have an opinion on your own mood. You have an objective approach on life is an approach where you actually like, where you have an opinion on something that's happening in your environment, let's say. Objective approach. Yeah, it's basically one of those, like, I guess, descriptions or feelings towards the outside. But a subjective approach, sorry, I'm writing it down to like think about it more. But a subjective approach is instead of having an opinion on life itself or whatever is happening in life that's making you want to have an opinion, the subjective approach would be basically having an opinion on yourself, on why you are getting these feelings. That's the only way it could be subjective, right? Because you're still including life, but it's coming out of you. You're reflecting on yourself, which you're making yourself the personal entity that's shifting how life actually activates in you and how reality changes. So in a way, you kind of have to not really, you can't have an opinion on life alone, because then you're judging yourself. You're judging your own reality. You're judging the way you actually see things. The best you could do if you feel like you're having an opinion on something is to also reflect on yourself, the self that's making this opinion, the part of you that's making this a thing, or at the very least, the feeling that was triggered or something. I don't know. It's like stuff that make us go this or that. Anything that feels that it's coming out of us. The objective approach would be to kind of look at it, and the subjective approach would be to look at us when it comes to it. So it's a lot of good stuff. My goal was literally just to highlight that life should be the way it is. And effectively, any way we approach statements is us making a judgment. And any judgment we make towards the world is a judgment that we're making towards our own reality, because what we see is what we're judging. So effectively, we're judging ourselves because the world doesn't give a fuck. And I think the best way we can actually end this is a quote. It's a Zen Buddhist quote. And the quote goes like this: uh, the swan or the fucking duck flying on top of the water doesn't mean to cast her image on the water, and the water doesn't care to retain the image, right? Because the minute the swan goes, her image kind of like disappears with it. And so the swan never meant to cast the image, and the water never cares to retain it. I think it's a video, man. I like what just happened. We're excited. Boy, it's a video, man. Come on, be excited.